Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
I was that child who didn't fit in and didn't know how to fit in. My parents didn't understand me, so we constantly clashed and had problems with each other. I was socially awkward and got in trouble a lot. I also didn't like people, and it was weird. I knew that I needed help, but I didn't know how to get help that I needed. My parents didn't understand what was going on with me because they didn't understand me. I was seen as the evil child who always got in trouble. My sister didn't make life easier for me. Anyway, because she didn't like me. We were not close at all, and somehow, half of the time, I got in trouble because of her. She made me do her dirty work and set me up just for fun, and she would laugh at me with her friends. This made me dislike people even more, and I preferred my personal space more than anything. I grew up like that, so I tried to stay out of trouble in my teenage years. I didn't really have friends. I would just go to school, come back, and do my own thing. I loved music, so it was my companion. As for my sister, she never changed. She found ways to get me into trouble for things I knew nothing about. It was always a joke to her, and it made her laugh. It got so bad that she and her friends set me up. They found drugs in my bag, and high schoolers had no business having such with them. She was the only person I left my bag with that day, so I knew it had to be her. I got suspended from school, and my parents were summoned. When we got home, they were furious with me, and they said so many things that they shouldn't have said to a child. Things that could literally damage a teenager's self-esteem and make them become dysfunctional adults. My sister suggested letting me fend for myself since I didn't appreciate my parents. My mom and dad thought that it was a good idea for them to throw me out of the house. I wasn't the smartest in my class. In fact, the only thing I knew how to do very well was music. So I used my music to take care of myself. I used to go in DJ at parties and do gigs to keep myself going. The pay was also decent. Because of what my parents and sister did to me, I decided I would change my life. But I knew I needed help. I met a group of people who I told about where I was coming from and all that had happened to me, and they helped me get therapy. I learned to interact with people without being irritable. Essentially, I got better as the years passed, and I was doing pretty well for myself. All that my family did to me seemed like a very distant past thing, and it didn't hurt as much anymore. I always felt like a vacuum in my heart for my family, though I don't like to acknowledge it. I wanted to feel loved, but it didn't matter anymore as time went on. My family was only a vehicle to bring me to the world. I tried not to resent them because I didn't want to go back where I was coming from before. I have had enough therapy to last me a lifetime. My therapist helped me realize that they were not worth my pain, so I shouldn't give them such power. I went to my local grocery store to pick up some things for the house, and I met my sister. I've been dreading this day for years. I hoped that I would never get to see my parents or my sister ever again. I guess I wasn't that lucky because my sister was right in front of me. I was not prepared for it. I so much wanted to inflict some injury on her perfectly sculpted face. My inhibitions were strong enough to help me to calm down on the outside. She behaved like she did nothing wrong and never acknowledged what she did to me. She said hi and asked how everything was going for me and that she wanted to keep in touch so we could actually try to be sisters. That was funny to me because she was the one who mistreated me. She was the reason why my parents threw me out of the house. I smiled in affirmation of her statements and gave her my card. She was surprised I had a business card. I know this because she made a statement about me now being fancy and how she never expected that from me. She probably thought that I would end up as a nobody. I was sorry to burst her bubble. She gave me her phone number and we parted ways. That evening, I got a phone call from a number that I didn't have saved on my phone. I thought it had to be my sister. I noticed that it wasn't her when I answered, but the voice sounded familiar. It was my mom. She said it was nice hearing my voice, and she wanted to check up on me to know how I was doing. Well, she was 9 years late. She said that she missed me. I almost laughed out loud, but I decided to keep my cool. She asked to see me, and I thought I could do that for her because I wanted my family to know that I had become something. I wasn't all those horrible things they thought I was. I met with my parents 2 days later and we chatted, but everything was superficial and so awkward. I didn't mention that they threw me out and that they didn't bring it up either. So I thought since we were playing the game of who could forget longer, I was going to win. So I behaved like everything was good just to see how far we could get it. The only time I got annoyed and almost lost my cool was when my sister kept trying to act all friendly with me, like she and I had been great friends, and we just lost touch for a little bit. I was tempted to tell her to keep her distance because we were not friends. I didn't consider her my sister, but I remembered what my therapist told me. Hence, I decided to let it be until everybody was ready to speak up. My mom made one of her favorite dishes, and we all had a lovely time. They wanted to know what I did, and I told them that I was a real estate agent. They were really impressed with what I had achieved. My sister mentioned how she was having issues paying her rent at her current place, and her landlord wanted to evict her. She asked me if I knew of any cheaper places, but I didn't. I asked her about the house and her agreement with the landlord. It so happened that the landlord was a close friend of mine. I told her that I knew the landlord, but didn't tell her to what extent. She was thrilled that she didn't have to move out anymore because I would put in a good word for her to give her enough time to pay her rent. She assumed that I would, and I didn't dispute it. The next day, she followed up on me and asked me if I had spoken to the landlord and what the outcome was, so I promised her that I would. You can call me evil, but instead of helping her keep her apartment, I made sure that she left. Her landlord wasn't planning on evicting her because she was one of his most compliant tenants, and this was her first time being late. I got him to change his mind about still having her in his house. I also ensured that she didn't get any consideration and had the shortest time to leave. It felt so good doing that because it reminded me of what she did to me. She was the primary reason my parents threw me out of the house. First of all, she never told them that it was her drugs in my bag. And then she made it seem like she was a good child and I was the horrible child. It felt nice making her homeless as well. At least she had our parents' house to move back into. I wasn't going to help her because she had not talked about all she did to me. There was no apology, and she made it seem like she didn't remember it at all. I called her and told her that I wasn't successful, and in fact, the landlord was annoyed at her now because she made someone else interfere with their business. I told her that the landlord and I had a formal relationship, so we weren't exactly friends, which was a lie, of course. I apologized for not being able to help, even though I wished I could. I gave her the option of moving back in with our parents, since the house was always open to her alone anyways. I think she got the hidden message because she got angry and started to cuss at me. She wondered what kind of sister I was. She was happy that she made our parents throw me out because I turned out to be exactly what she thought, useless. I didn't care about anything she said. I had done what I wanted to do. Suppose my parents were not going to acknowledge what they did to me, and my sister wouldn't quit behaving crazy. In that case, I would keep my distance until they were ready or forever. After leaving him a text about how I felt about everything, I stopped answering their calls and told them not to contact me again. YTA, you should have just told her you didn't want to help instead of making her think that you would then actually make things even worse. What you did doesn't make you any different from her. Both of you are the same. You can think about all the bad things she did to you, but you behaved the same at the slightest chance. So you are not a better person. NTA serves your sister right.
Next story.
I have not been in contact with my family for years. I cut them off when I was pregnant with my third, but our relationship has been rocky since I was like 20. The main reason is the way they treated my kids. I can handle when it's about me, but not when it comes to my babies. They're all under 10 right now, too. Anyways, I'm pregnant again, and well, it's another boy. He's my fourth, and probably my last, laugh out loud. And wasn't planned at all, but he's almost here, so yeah. I haven't told my family because I see no reason to. They're just going to ridicule me for having another boy, or they're going to accuse me of stealing another kid because a doctor once told me I'm infertile. Well, even though I live very far away from my parents, I saw my sister at a grocery store. Her hair was dyed lighter and her style was different, but she looked exactly the same. I panicked and began walking away, but she saw me and immediately ran up to me. Rough breakdown of what happened. "Oh my God, are you pregnant again? Do I know you? Girl, don't play with me right now. Leave me alone, please. Is it another boy? Do Mom and Dad know?" She kept following me around despite the fact that I ignored all her questions. I thought I'd finally get peace once I got to my car, but no, she was still right behind me. And that's when I screamed at her, saying, "If you keep following me around, I'll call the police." I called her a creep as well. A woman came up to us and asked me if I was okay and needed help. And at this point, my sister stormed off after calling me a bitch. I thanked the lady and went on with my day. Well, not even an hour later, I got a DM on Instagram from my sister calling me a bitch and an a-hole for embarrassing and humiliating her. She said that she was really happy to see me after years and didn't mean any harm. I asked her if Mom knows about my pregnancy, and she said she told her. And I was like, well, that's exactly why I don't want to talk to you. I blocked her, but IDK, I felt bad. Like, I don't think I'm the AH necessarily, but my friends say I'm being really harsh and I should apologize because acting like she was a creep was childish and immature. My sister probably still thinks I'm the AH because a mutual friend said she made a post about me on Instagram, and more people think I'm in the wrong, apparently. AITA? I'm almost 33 weeks pregnant, by the way. The final straw was when my parents offered to babysit my eldest too, while me and my husband were dealing with an emergency, only to find out that they made some 14-year-old girl we have never met before take care of them while they left to go to a party. My sister, this one, also used to make my kids cry because she thought it was funny. Hopefully, this gives more perspective. Also, I know saying, "Do I know you?" wasn't going to work, but I thought she'd get the hint. I was also panicking and not thinking straight, but I understand that it's childish, and I'm not denying it. NTA, you're not required to keep in contact with people that treat you crappy. She should have taken the hint that you didn't want anything to do with her when you acted like you didn't know her, instead of following you around and to your damn car. It's creepy to follow someone to their car trying to get them to talk to you. Whether you know them or not is irrelevant. You don't do that shit. She had no right to share your pregnancy. There's a reason they didn't know. Just like there's a reason you don't have contact with them. Block them all and tell them to piss off if you see them again. NTA, you went full no contact from your family years ago. She kept bothering you after you said to leave you alone. She was acting like a creep. The fact that she later insulted you on DMs furthers her lack of respecting your boundaries. Your friends are wrong because her behavior was creepy. That woman probably approached you in the parking lot because she noticed your sister's behavior. Following someone around and continuously asking questions despite them saying to leave them alone is creepy behavior.
Next story.
My daughter is turning 9 next week. On Friday, I told her to give invitations to her friends in class to the birthday party we're holding for her. She is very excited by this, as this is a new school after I left her father, who was abusive towards me, and we moved away 7 months ago. She'd never had a proper birthday party because of our home situation, so I was eager to give her one now. When I picked her up, her teacher asked for a moment to speak to me. I thought something was wrong, but when we spoke, she told me that my daughter had only invited 3 of her classmates to her birthday party. I will be honest, I was confused and said, yeah, I figured it'd be 3 as I know who her friends are, and asked what the issue was. The teacher was a bit thrown off that I knew about this and told me it was unfair on the other students to see invitations to a party given out and be excluded. She told me I should ensure that all the children are invited to the party so my daughter learns to treat people fairly and equally. My daughter's class has 26 students, including her. There is a big difference between inviting her 3 best friends and inviting her entire class, and I won't lie, I laughed a bit at this and told her that wasn't happening, and it was really inappropriate of her to even ask this, as it wasn't a party on school premises, but in my own home. The teacher was clearly displeased with me, laughing about this, and has said to me that the school enforces that even private birthday parties include the entire class, so no child is left out, as it can be a form of bullying. I was getting annoyed at this. It's the first time I've heard of such a thing, and I told her that my daughter hadn't invited a huge group singling out some people to bully, but just her 3 friends in class. I then told her if there was nothing else, I had to get home, and I left. Now, I've had time to think about this. I admit I'm feeling guilty. I want my daughter to have the perfect birthday party with just her friends, but I've never thrown a proper child's birthday party before. Is this really a thing I should have considered? I thought it fully appropriate for it to just be her friends. Why should I invite a huge group of kids she didn't personally want there? Am I the a-hole in this scenario? I don't know why, but it's funny to me that no one wants to teach children that you're not always invited to-ish. We teach kids that everyone should be included until around age 10. Then suddenly, not everyone is included. Some kids don't get chosen to be on the team. Some kids don't get chosen to go to college. Some people don't get chosen for the job. This bait and switch kind of messes with people's heads. I'd always thought that it was more of an unwritten rule and more of social etiquette to pass out invites outside of school if not everyone is invited. I found out just this year when I read my 6-year-old nephew's school handbook, and it clearly states that the entire class, including the teacher, must be invited if the invitations are given at school during school hours. NaH. You didn't know the rules at the time, and now you know. You won't make this mistake again. Since it sounds like you are not in a position to include the whole class, perhaps talk to your daughter's teacher about bringing in a treat for the class on her birthday.